Hello and welcome to The Polymathic Man Does Live Coding. My name is Jeff Hulteen, aka Polymathic Man on Twitter. Well, that's where I'm going to be posting anything like this that I do. Other types of things such as rants and conversations go under my personal handle of JHULTEN. So, with that, let's get started real quick. I'm going to be doing some stuff off of exorcism.io. This is a site that allows you to, well, as it says, level up your programming skills. Switching over to the Languages tab, I can see a fair number of languages, some of which I know. Oh, hey, helps if I actually hit the button. You can see my screen now, or you will be able to in a second. And so yeah, this is a exorcism.io. Let's go back to the first page. Now that I'm figuring out how my tools work. And under the languages, a whole bunch of different languages which it supports. I'm going to spend a little time on Ruby today. I know a fair amount of Ruby. I know a lot of Ruby, let's be honest. And this is intended to give me a chance to get more familiar with exorcism as opposed to trying to focus on learning a new language. Future videos, I'll actually do stuff around language itself. So, it's going to give me a series of pieces. I've already installed the client. So if I click switch over and tell the thing to go away, you can now should be able to see exorcism. I do my work on the Mac. This should spend a moment updating Homebrew, tell me that it's already installed. Let me make sure that it's not out of date. It is not in the list of outdated packages. I have a lot of packages that are out of date, but that could be for another time. Let me actually try and up the size without completely, well, that's going to slightly screw up my screen, isn't it? Or is it? Let's see how this looks once it gets to you, the viewer. And yes, that screwed up my screen slightly because my ratio's changed. Let's bring this side in. That's that. That's going to be a start, I think. Up just a touch. It's out a notch or two. I eventually will get all of this figured out and working well. So, let's see here. If I go back to my browser, you can see that it says I need to run exorcism fetch Ruby. So let's do that. Exorcism fetch Ruby. It's going to fetch me. Oh, I already have apparently one problem, one new, one not submitted. Okay, good to know. I apparently forgot that I had done stuff on exorcism here already. So, switching back to my browser. Once I've written a solution, submit it to the site. You'll have to configure the command line column with your exorcism API before you can submit it. So let's check something with the exorcism command line. If I say list, track ID, okay, so if I say over here, say exorcism open Ruby, Hey, and that's not exactly what I wanted, but that gets me a little closer to what I needed. Let me get you back over to my live coding side. And I'm going to CD into, I'm already there, Ruby, hello world. And actually, because I'm, relatively well set up with what I'm doing, I'm just going to open up Vim here, and then I can go into hello world. Getting started. So it's going to give me a series of things. It says that I need to have the Minitest gem instead installed. So gem install Minitest. More than likely I already have this installed because, like I said, I do it for amount of Ruby already. Okay. Oh, I'm using the Chef DK, so Chef gem install Minitest. Okay, says that I have the right version of Minitest. And now I should be able to, what happens if I just do Ruby, oh, I need to change directories now, don't I? Ruby hello world, and Ruby, somebody joined, apparently. Or maybe I'm just watching myself. I think I just ended up with 2 tabs open. That's probably what's going on. Ruby hello world test, you got an error, which is exactly as it should be. Require relative to not load such file, hello world, hello world. Okay. Most important part of this error is cannot load such file. So it's looking for a file that doesn't exist yet. To fix the error, create an empty file named hello world in the same directory and run the test again. Okay, that I can do. So, Ruby hello world, multi-add, hello, I believe it was underscore world .rb. I'm going to open that up, make sure that it's been written to this. Come back over here, and apparently screw up on that. Okay, good. So, on initialize constant in hello world test, hello world, in test say hi. So, I'm going to go over and look at this and see that is attempting to call a module called hello world and assert that it gets back, or a module and a method, and assert that it equals hello world on the other side. So, we'll go back to this getting started and see that it's going to tell me a bunch of things as I scroll through here. So test hi, so it's looking for a class, and then it's looking for a class method. So, easy enough to implement. Let's bring the test back up here. Here is hello world. So, class hello world. And I can see that I'm going to probably decide to shift the way my Ruby plugins work inside of Vim. I've been reworking my Vim config, so it's a mess. Let's just be honest. Self hello. And so this said uninitialized constant hello world, hello world. So I'm actually going to do this one step at a time, the way the TDD folks want you to. Save that, and run this test. And I can say no defined method hello for hello world class. So yes, it is looking for a class method. So I can come back in here and undo those. And remember that I'm not in a GUI, so I can't just use Command S. And now it says, well, I was able to run hello, but I expected hello world, and I actually got nil. So Ruby in particular has the ability, basically whatever the last statement you executed, translates to, that's the thing that goes out the door and goes live as the meaning. Let's make sure that you guys can see this. So I'm at the bottom of my screen. And it's going to take me a moment to watch the preview catch up, because that's a thing, but I see it a little better there. And I see Joy of Vim, being able to see all of my little yellow edges. Good. So it's going to take whatever the last statement is and use that as its return value. So self hello is going to return a string. If I just make it return an empty string, I come back here, instead of actual nil, I should get actual empty string. Yep, there it goes. So now I'm going to say hello world exclamation point and rerun, and it says it passes. So now what? Well, let's go back over to the web browser and take a look. Let's see here. You can see it. I can't. Switch tabs. There we go. So, available exercises. Hello world. Good to know. So once I've done this, and here's the test suite. This has got the example here. Here's the test suite. That was that hello world test we already saw. And it's going to run these things, and we can, apparently there's some tricks that we can use to throw in some color, which is always nice. A fabulous run! Gotta love that. Okay. And at the end of it, we're going to need to submit our, it might be nice if I was locked in. Luckily I can do that, so these are my exercises in progress. Back to languages, and I'm going to go back to Ruby. Running, contributing, implementing. Cool. So they have a good how it works for both new devs and existing devs. It looks like at the end I can submit path to file. So I'm going to exercism submit hello world.rb. It's been submitted. Programmers generally spend far more time reading code than writing it. Benefits most of this exercise. Find 3 or more submissions that you can learn from, have questions about, or have suggestions for. Now, this is an excellent example. My and other solutions to this problem are shown at this URL, which you can't see because I have not gotten into the habit of transitions yet. So now you should be able to see that here in a second. Well, it'll be instantaneous for you. And so we're going to go to this URL. Transition back. Here is my hello world iteration. And it's pretty self-explanatory. If I go back, I can go look at my neighbors. Hello world. Got some good comments here about the comments about hello world. Now it looks like in the beginning he just put out hello world, which of course isn't what it was looking for. And there's an interesting concept here about, we can make a comment about the use of return. Ruby in particular does not require a return. The last statement in a method's return value. That's way to say it. Return value of the last statement in a method is returned as returned to the method caller. Some people like, I'm going to use, it supports GitHub flavored Markdown, which includes backticks in order to mark things out as code. Some people like return hello world over hello world. Oh, if I don't add my quotes and close my ticks, that's going to get messy. For clarity's sake, but the trade-off of should not be ignored. And if I look at my preview, I can see that that actually escaped out the way I wanted, and I can hit submit. Do-do-do-do, out the door. No comment there on Alexander KW's entry there. So now if I come back here and I say back here at the beginning, I had system fetch Ruby, not submitted, hamming, new, hamming, excellent. So go in and refresh this. So here is, let's close out a couple of windows here. After switching screens, because transitions are a thing, I can see that this is going to be tricky for me, and I may have to go up with a plan, but that's okay. So, thinking. Okay, so I'm going to clear out a window or two and close that. Open up the README here. So there's a README and there's a running test.md. If I look at running test, we can see, there we go. Complete this exercise and all subsequent exercises, you will need to pass multiple tests. This is pretty standard for any real code base. After you've created and saved hamming.rb, run the test suite. You should see output like the following: SSSSE, SSSSS, which basically means it ran one thing and skipped a bunch of others. You have skipped test. Run with verbose for details. One error, 15 skips. So you want all of your tests to become a series of dots instead of S's and E's. At the end, it will read 16 runs, 0 assertions, 0 failures, 0 errors, and 0 skips. Write enough code to change the error to failure, and then finally to passing. Open hamming test, find the word skip. All but the first test start with skip, which tells Minitest to ignore that test. An excellent way if you're dealing with... I've used this when I had a test suite that I needed to run against. Basically, I had written an implementation of graph traversal, and for the particular problem set that I was using, it was pretty naive and very underperforming. So, graphs, starting point at the top, well, a directed acyclic graph will often have a starting point at the top, but doesn't have to. This particular, it really was tree traversal in this particular case. Now that I think about it, it wasn't graph traversal, but yeah, whatever. Important distinction, not one I'm going to attempt to explain at the moment. So basically, there are two ways in which to traverse a tree, especially if it's not a balanced tree. You can go depth first, which is basically, I'm going to take the left-hand path all the way until I hit a dead end, and then I'm going to back up until I have another option, and then I'm going to keep going until I hit a dead end, and then I'm going to back up until I have another option and keep going and doing this and working your way, and then finally you get done with the first branch, you go on to the second branch. And then there's breadth first, which goes down one, and then over, and then over, and then over, and I'll do that right. Okay. point being, the particular problem I was trying to solve really was a depth-first traversal problem instead of a breadth-first traversal problem. I had written a breadth-first traversal algorithm, so I took the test suite, duplicated it, converted or added skips to all but the first one, and then proceeded to work through making them all pass on the new library. And that was an entertaining and pretty clean way in which to do that. So, easy enough. Delete one skip at a time, make it pass before you move to the next one. Yes, sir. README. Calculate the Hamming difference between two DNA strands. A mutation is a simple mistake that occurs during the creation or copying of nucleic acid. Blah-de-blah. So, simplest and most common type of nucleic acid mutation is a point mutation, which replicates one base with another at a single nucleotide. Okay. Pouring myself some more to drink. Counting the number of differences between two homologous DNA strands taken from different genomes with a common ancestor, we get the measure of the minimum number of point mutations that could have occurred between the two strands. This is called the Hamming distance. Good to know. Hamming distance for this example is 7 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 differences between the two strands. Hamming distance is only defined for sequences of equal length. It's an important thing to recognize. Here's that. We still need mini-test. There's the example. And here are the incomplete solution notes and whatnot. So, Hamming test. Open this guy. There we go. So we are looking for a class or module called Hamming with a class method that called compute that takes two strings. All of these are labeled as, take a note, these are all labeled as skip except for this first one. So, and I'm requiring relative Hamming. So, as I did before, I can Ruby mini test pride. I really need to change the what's the word I'm looking for? My shell is currently using Emacs bindings, and because I was forcing myself back into Emacs land, and it ended up hurting my brain badly enough where I decided to take a step back and try again in a different direction, back on Vim, and so that's okay. I don't particularly care what you prefer one way or the other, but oh, I'm still in the Hello World directory. That's never going to work. So, not Hamming. Not to be confused with ham radio, another one of my polymathic fashions. Polymathic, that's not bad. Okay. Let's see here. Nicely alliterative. So Ruby, mini test pride. We'll have to find, we'll get to see now what it looks like when it's failing. And test.rb. Require relative cannot load such file. So it's looking for Hamming in a directory. So if I add Hamming.rb, this is not tuberculosis, this is Ruby. So modify Hamming.rb, since apparently I can't type this morning. And let's reopen this in the splits. There we go. And for Hamming.rb, we're going to rerun Hamming test, and see one error and a bunch of skips. So, what's next here? Make them a bit thingy, drop away. Where's my snooze button on this? There we go. That'll stop pinging at me. Alrighty, where was I? Ah, yes, I was going to convert that from an E to a dot. So, running this test, uninitialized constant Hamming test Hamming. So first, let's make a class called Hamming, and save that. And unidentified method compute for Hamming class. So def self compute. Write that out. Now, wrong number of arguments, 2 for 0. So this is going to ask me to, I need to take strand, let's just call them A and B because I'm lazy and don't like labeling things. A and B, but I'm not going to do anything with them. So, and run it again. And expected as 0, and actually got nil. So now we actually have to take the thing that takes 2 A's, and in the spirit of test-driven development, sometimes you try and do stuff that is dumb as the easiest way to solve the problem, and then keep revising from there. So I'm going to say if A equals B, then 0 else nil. Actually, we'll just do that. If A equals B, then 0, because that is really what I'm looking for. I want to show that the first strand and the second strand are the same. If they are the same, then return 0. Right? And I'm going to actually make that be return 0. I wouldn't necessarily need to put the 0. No, the 0 is not going to, yeah, better to do it this way. So now that we've got that, we'll run this again. And if I'm guessing, ooh, syntax error, unexpected end of input. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use the other way of doing this, which is to say, well, that's not what it is to say. Return 0 if A equals B, which is a simple way of shortening that whole process and saying, hey, if these match, they match. I don't care. So, and as we see from that dot, one assertion passed and the rest were skipped. So now, in theory, we should uncomment the next one. Guesses now. What do you actually think is going to happen? I have an idea. I think it's still going to pass, because I think that the long strands and the short strands got treated exactly the same way in this particular problem set, or in this particular implementation. So, let's write out the skip there, and let's see if the test passes. 2 assertions pass. Almost like I know what I'm doing. So, now I need to uncomment the next one. And this is definitely not going to pass because it's going to return a nil because these two don't match and it's going to get all the way to the end and not return a damn thing. So, one failure, expected one, actually nil. All right, good to know. So, the nice thing about testing for equality first is that you test sequences of, in this case in particular, I'm going to have to iterate through the chain at some point. But in this case in particular, I don't have to iterate through an entire chain if I can do a simple equality match. A 0 is an easy case to find. So that's going to end up being a short circuit. There's certain short circuits that work out really well in large computational math, and other languages are brilliant about giving you ways to do that. Things that do pattern matching in method calls in particular. For instance, you can say is prime equal to, then yes. If it's not 2, but it's divisible by 2 evenly, then no. And you already eliminated half of the possible numbers to infinity. So now that usually comes at a certain amount of cost. This particular notation is not particularly bad. So now we have these single entries. And so the simplest way to solve this is to say return 1. So if it's not equal, return 1. If it is equal, return 0. And we run this, and we see, hey, that one passed. Is it the right thing to do? Well, the right thing to do is less important than being lazy, apparently, in a purely in the pure world of test-driven development, at least as I understand. So, so let's do that. And now when we run the test, we should get another error because it's going to expect you to get 1. So instead of 1, let's say that we're going to return the length of A. Right? So basically I'm saying if something doesn't match, then everything doesn't match, which of course isn't true, but for this next particular test case, it is true. So we write that out. Ooh, 2 errors. Apparently I broke something. Undefined method len for Hamming.class. Oh, right, because I've been doing a little too much Ruby of late. Does this do? That does not do what I hoped. Okay, so I've been doing a little too much Python of late, and the bits of the language are, of course, not the same. So, go over here, we'll say Ruby string length, and the string.length, so string is a class and has a method .length which returns the length of the string. So, I can instead make this a dot. Oops, no, length. And now I rerun this. I don't rerun that. Rerun this. There we go. 4 assertions, no errors, no failures. Good to know. So now we're going to get to the next one, and it's all going to come apart. So So let's save this. Run the test. Actual 2 because I returned the length of the string AT, but I expected 1 because the T is the same, it's only the A that's different. So now apparently I need to do something different. This implementation is no longer sufficient. Let's say, so I'm going to, I know a fair number of tricks in Ruby, so Ruby with index example. So enumerators, I'm actually using a later version. Let's make this 2.1.0 or 2.1.8, I think is what I'm actually using. The enumerator class has a with index, which gives me a starting index to use, and returns, or rather, it also accepts a thing with a guy and a place. A lambda, which is going to give me an opportunity to go through this list of characters. Likewise, I also need to look at string.html and see, here's a method called cars, which is going to return an array of characters in string. So this is a shorthand for string each car 2a. Now, each car may actually be what I want, because I don't necessarily need it to be converted to an array. I need an enumerator, something that I can iterate over. So scroll back up here. Each car is going to pass each character in string to the given block, or returns an enumerator if no block is given. So I'm going to say a dot each car dot with index. Still haven't figured out how to make that work. Do character index. I need a place to put the count of Hamming difference value. So Hamming equals 0 if, so what I basically want to say is if B at I, this is not good Ruby yet, if the string B at position I equals C, which is character, then I want to take Hamming and increment it. So now I need to solve this B at I, and I'm going to close out my end statement like so. B at I. So I need to be able to treat that array as this, or rather as an array, treat that as an array. So that is that. Cat count, delete, downface, dump, each car. Those are going to give me just the enumerators, enumerated, enumerables. This, if I was doing integer values, that would be fine. It's also nice, tight C, so fast. So let's actually go up here and look at the implementation. This is, I may be borrowing trouble. So if I go to cars and I click to top of the source, I can see that I'm going to return enumerated RB str enumerate characters string 1. That's the value of the string. And it's going to take the 1, enumerate characters. That is going to be each car, more than likely. This is just taking, this is a thing called enumerate characters, which takes a 0 or a 1. If it's a 0, it returns an enumerable. If it's array. So, in other words, whatever is underneath here is probably faster than anything I'm ever going to write, and I should just stop worrying my head over it. So, cars is an array. So this is going to be B dot cars. The accessor there. And then at the end of all of this, I need to return header. So let's see if this works. Oh, expecting keyword. So syntax error expected Hamming test 2. Ooh. Something's completely not right. So this particular bit actually worked out shorter than I thought. So I'm actually going to convert this to an inline, which simplifies my use of ends. And let's see how that looks. Okay. Expected keyword then, or semicolon, or okay. So this is not acting the way in which I expected. So, here's the transition over here. And I realized I didn't show you this earlier, and I apologize because, like I said, I'm not used to this yet. So I need to do the suffixing with B cars I equals C, and that's C, and that's I, and that's a lift div. I don't see what's wrong with this. I'm missing something. So what? What am I missing? Thinking. So, with cars. Free string cars. And, or not, it's each cars, isn't it? Each car. So this is going to go print C, blah, blah, blah. Each car. Maybe. No, I need the enumerator in order to apply the width. So, so let's pull that out. Shove it on the end here. To make sure that I've switched over my screen. And I can do a then. And I fully expect that this is probably going to fail in some way too, because I'm obviously not getting something. Syntax error, unexpected, close quote, then Hamming end. Like that, unexpected keyword end, expecting curly bracket. So I'm in a little bit of a race for which is the right one here. So, So as I go through each car with index, it's going to give me this, and it's going to continue out with an enumerator. So what if I just do this portion, which is to say that I'm going to do b.cars equals that, and that's going to give me out another enum of trues and falses. And then I'm going to go back to my bet you this isn't going to work. No. Core. Enumerable. And so I can now look through this list. Oh, that you can't see yet. I can look through this list. And figure out which is the right thing. So I've got some finds, find alls, find indexes. I'm basically taking an array-ish thing. Definitely not unique. That would be bad. Select returns an array containing all the elements of enum for which the given block returns a true value. Well, since we want a count of things which are true, I can say pretty simple. Select and reject is going to give me the ones that are false. So let's cut back over to code. We've got with index doing this, and then I want the ones, I want to reject the ones where the Boolean is true. So do that. Now I have an array of falses. And I should be able to, if I go back to my other screen, I think I have a count method on here, or length, or something similar. Hey, count, what do you know? Number of items, if an argument is given, the number of items that are equal to item are counted. Oh, that's even better. I can cut a step, can't I? So I want to count the items, which I will call, I didn't want to call them B, that would have been terrible. But that's an index, so maybe change it to R, where not R. So I want the ones where the true-false values are flipped. Really what I should do is say, give me the truth, or count the ones, give me a list of the ones where they're not equal to each other, and then I can count where that's the case. And at that point, since I'm returning a single digit and I don't need this Hamming value anymore, take those out, save that, run the Hamming test, and find that something else. I think that's right. Oh, because I didn't save my file. Much better. Oh, let's see. Wrong number of arguments given in count. So 0, 4, 1 plus. So So let's go take a look at with index. This may be where the problem lies. It all appears to be problems with count. So it doesn't like the fact that I've used count in this particular case, and the things that are erroring out now are things where we didn't short circuit on the complete equality value. So I'm very sorry. I obviously, for the next time I do this, need to come up with a better way of handling the web browser. That's multiple working very well. Try that way. That would be a little better. Okay, so this is what I changed it to. A.eachchar with index, a character, an index. From the B array, grab the character at I. If it is not equal to C, in other words, it's not a match and therefore needs to count towards the Hamming distance. With index, I expect it to return an enumerable of true or falses, and then count those up, but this is obviously not doing what I expect. So we'll take a look at what with index does. And so, this is enumerable. Apparently I wanted the other one, enumerator. It's not blowing up. Iterates with the given block. So, return the block call to this thing. This is not doing what I expect it to. So, and actually, now that I think about it, I wouldn't expect it to do that thing. Iterates the given block for each element with an index, which start from offset. If no block is given, returns an enumerator that includes the index starting from offset. So, the enumerator is this thing that I'm doing with the next, which is each and each with index. Same as with index, there's no starting offset. So let's go back. Maybe I just have a little bit of a misunderstanding. So maybe we should go take a look up an example. So Ruby with index example. It's like they know me. Does this give me anything useful? Let's see. Value index, okay, and that includes what I got, and then it's doing puts. But that's having a side effect, and I'm trying to keep it in line, which is usually where I end up biting myself in the butt. So let's see if Aaron knows something I don't. So again, side effect, side effect. Martians.each.withIndex1 is going to give me a count starting at 1 of Martians, Marvin, Johns, Mark Watney, which would result in 1. Got it. So, okay. So I'm going through this with index 1 Martian. This is what I'm looking for. So Martians.each.withIndex Martian I puts blah in, And it's doing the puts. This is the side effect, but the thing that it returns is the original array. Now, if I return it as the last value, oh, that's actually what I want. I want map, not each. So let's try that. So first I need to convert it so that I have that list. So let's break this down a little further. I really am going to have to fix my tabs. Dot map dot with index do ci end dot count RR. So if I did this right, this should iterate through each of the characters, mapping with index the function of B cards not equal to C for that particular index, and then counting them, determining how many are true. Probably more than was really necessary, but let's see what happens. Let's also save the file. Run the having tests. Hey, hey, 5 assertions, 0 failures, 0 errors, 11 skips. So let's see how far we can get on this code. Small distance. Hey, 6 assertions, 0 failures, 0 errors. Small distance, long strands. Hey, 7 assertions, 0 failures, 0 errors. Non-unique character in first strand. 8 assertions, good to know, I'm making good progress. Non-unique character in second strand. So obviously they're doing some kind of, they're doing testing for various edge conditions that they expect people to try as far as counting or something similar. Because it would be really easy to think that you can count the numbers of A's, C's, T's, and G's and compare them. Of course, that doesn't work out that way. 9 assertions, 0 failures. Same nucleotides in different positions. Ooh, see, TAG versus GAT. This should be a 2. I believe we will get a clean run. 10 assertions. Alrighty. Large distance. Am I doing it to you again? I am totally doing it to you again. Figure that out. Alright, so I've gone through all of these. You can see here's my method. A with character, or rather A each character, map it with the index. This function, so this is going to turn it into array or an enumerable of trues and falses, and then count the trues, which is to say that they don't match. So far we've commented out. All right, we've commented out small distances, large distance, or small distance, long strands, first strand, unique, non-unique in the second strand, same nucleotides, different positions. This one, of course, would fail any kind of counting attempt. A large distance, which is to say that there were a fair number of things that weren't right there. Large distances and off by 1 strand. So this is the same thing, but there's an extra A in the second example, which is still a large Hamming distance. That is the one we are working on now. That passed. Empty strands. Ooh. So based on this, these two should be equal, which means you should actually get that first test. However, I should be able to comment out this first test if I really wanted to, and still have everything pass. But often there is some kind of short circuit special case which you want to kind of catch as a allows you to skip doing a bunch of work. This work is pretty easy for this size of strand. But let's now skip test empty strands. Let's save everybody and run it again. 13, 2 skips left. Disallow first strand. Oh, see, here we go. This is something new. So disallow first strand longer, disallow second strand longer. So these are two cases where we should throw an argument error if the lengths of the two strands are not the same. So I'm going to comment the first one. Now, it would be really easy to do this wrong. So, you know what? I'm going to intentionally do it wrong for the first one. We're going to raise error if actually no. Since we're doing a straight comparison, it's actually quite hard to do it wrong. A dot length does not equal B dot length. Now, I would expect that this would carry through for both use cases, but let's find out. Fabulous rod, it says, but it didn't increment the number of runs because I probably haven't saved all of my pieces there. There we go. All right. 2. I would expect this to work as well. Down to 1 assertion left. So now it says problems of exorcism evolve over time. We find better ways to ask the question. This version number refers to the version of the problem you solve, not your solution. Define a constant name version inside the top level bookkeeping module, which may be placed near the end of your file. In your file, it will look something like this. So, module bookkeeping version and then we're going to apparently click around a lot. There we go. Let's see what I'm doing. Save all of those. Now I should get 1 failure because it can't find the constant. So now let's have a constant version equals 3. And all of my tests pass. So there you go. There is the Hamming example. This is done in a kind of a functional way, taking a enumerable and working through that enumerable in various fashions, as opposed to attempting to do a bunch of logic and for loops and whatnot. The internal method for how it does that is going to be way faster than any code I could possibly write. Well, not possibly, but any code that I would write in this language. with that, I think we're going to sign off. Looks like nobody decided to join us right away, but perhaps someone will come through later on in the process and find it interesting. So try and do this on a regular basis. Saturdays are my day of choice. And see what happens next time. Thank you very much. Catch you later.